All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys, for watching us. We apologize for the simple presentation. We've just gotten in from a very exhausting, really 2 days. We have our Squishmallows to show for it. These things are surprisingly popular. I'm James Early, CIO of BBAE. You guys probably have read my content or seen my videos or seen our dribble already. And you probably also know Xiaoping Huang, my longtime analyst. Just maybe say hi, Xiaoping.
Hello， 大家好，我是黄少平，我是 BBAE 的分析师，很高兴跟大家在这见面。
So thanks for taking the time to watch us here. In fact, we saw a large contingent of Taiwanese investors last night. We had dinner with them from BOS. They're wonderful, wonderful people, and it's great to see. In fact, there are a lot of non-U.S. people who come to this. I think in some years, 20% of the attendees have been from mainland China. I don't know the Taiwan number, but it's not insignificant either.
对，这两天我们见到了很多专门从外国过来美国参加这个会议的人，所以就是还有点吃惊。然后昨天我们也见到了一些就是来自台湾的这个 BOS 的一些朋友们来自台湾的朋友们然后我们一起吃晚饭，真的很高兴。
So I thought we might, because we have these Squishmallows, we might tell the story of these first, because you're probably wondering what they are. So last year we saw these for like 10 or 15 bucks each. We heard this after the meeting, they were selling for like $450 US on the black market. So we tried to buy a bunch of them. We could only buy 3 Charlie Mungers yesterday. Warren Buffett was sold out. We came back again today and Warren Buffett was still sold out. Maybe you can finish the story, Xiaoping, and explain how we got these guys.
OK， 那就是因为我们去年就是忘记买这个东西了，然后结果这个东西本来就卖15刀一个的，然后这个会议结束之后马上就在黑市里面卖到400刀一个了。然后我们这次到这边的时候就直接冲进展馆里面去买，结果巴菲特也是没有货了，我们直接就只能买到芒格，然后今天早上来也没有，结果最后猜我们多少钱买的？这一堆我们花了500刀，不过是给乌克兰捐款了。
500 is a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But for a good cause, Yeah. So briefly, I'll explain what the event is like, and then some of what we learned, some of what we didn't learn as well. And I'll just give a quick outline, and Xiaoping, you can add a little bit more. I don't want to take too long in English here, but basically 45,000 people come to this thing. Friday and Saturday, they have this big exhibit room with companies from the Berkshire portfolio that have set up either displays or sometimes actual stores selling things. And everybody walks around, checks it out. Saturday, though, is the main event. It starts with like a video. And this year, it was a really, really good tribute to Charlie Munger. And we expected that, and we got it. Then for about an hour and a half, Buffett explains the financials, some of the news updates, basically, from the company. The whole rest of the day, basically, got a thumbs down. Interesting. I don't know if that's an accidental graphic, but we'll try to speed up the pace if that's a thumbs down on the screen. Long story short, many, many hours of audience questions, not all about Berkshire, not even all about investing, about life. In addition to that, though, there are probably 100 or more than 100 smaller events that happen all around Omaha, and we went to a bunch of them already. So it's a very exhausting weekend, but it's a very fun weekend for value investors.
这场大会大概来了有45000个人，快5万个人。然后一般第一天是展览，大家都去逛一下展览，然后里面就是各种伯克希尔的产业里面都有，所以大家就可以在里面买自己喜欢的东西。然后第二天的话就是正式的大会了。然后这次就因为芒格在去年去世了，所以就是跟往常都是不一样。但是这回他们做了一个非常好的电影就是讲述了芒格的一生我们觉得非常动人。
So on the meeting itself, I would say the big thing, obviously, was Charlie Munger wasn't here. And everybody was aware of that. In fact, we've all agreed the saddest moment of the meeting was when Warren gave an answer to something. And then he said, Charlie, what do you think? And then he realized Charlie wasn't there. And Greg Abel, the energy CEO answered, but it was, everybody felt Charlie's absence. That's the biggest thing about this meeting, I would say.
对，我们觉得这次就是最大不同，真的就是芒格他不在了。然后，比较让人伤心的一幕是巴菲特在就是回答了一个问题之后，习惯性的转头说，Charlie 你怎么想？ 然后结果全场都愣住了，就是大家都哦，但是 yeah， 然后对，就是这样子。
In terms of technical things, though, people were talking about a financial stock that Berkshire had recently bought, or maybe $3 or $4 billion worth. And they wondered if we would get a little bit more information about that stock on this weekend, and we didn't.
对，在这个会前，大家最期待的其实是因为大家都知道，最近伯克希尔他其实一直在秘密购入某个金融股，然后真的就是大量的购买。我们可能大家都以为他会在会上透露一些线索，但是没有，这个比较让人失望。
Another thing that I found a little disappointing was that without Charlie, Warren is a strong personality, and he has a few like kind of lower ranking people, Greg Abel, Ajit Jain, and Todd Combs and Ted Weschler. Those two guys are sort of like becoming the chief investment officers. Greg Abel heads the insurance business, and he's going to kind of replace Warren Buffett in a capital allocation sense when Buffett is gone. Ajit Jain does insurance. So long story short, I kind of expected to see more of these people because they're the ones who will they'll replace Buffett, I should say, when he's gone. But they were just kind of quiet.
对，然后这次还有另外一个比较让人失望的点呢，就是我们会以为就是巴菲特他们的这些后继者们，就比如说 Ted and Todd， 然后还有 Ajit， 然后还有这个阿贝尔可能会就是站出来多讲一些话，但是好像没有，就是这样比较让人失望。
And so, in fact, one particular question stood out. A lady from Nevada, which is a very dry state where Las Vegas is, asked about Berkshire's energy business, the utility company business, and said, hey, why don't you have more solar power in Nevada? Greg Abel gave a very boring corporate sounding answer. I can't remember anything of what he said. Buffett then said, hey, we would love to do more solar power, but we just can't because it doesn't work at night.
其中一个最明显的表现呢，是中间有一位来自内华达的女士提问说，为什么你们不提供更多一点的太阳能？然后这个阿贝尔他的回答呢，他回答，但是就完全不记得他说什么。但是巴菲特最后补充了一句，他可能就补充了1-2句，但是我们就记住了他说的意思就是我们大家都喜欢太阳，但是太阳不是每时每刻都有的。
Yeah, so in general, I would say I felt like we got a little bit less detailed information about the portfolio, about the investments this year compared to previous years.
所以说，相对来讲，我们觉得今年的这个股东大会可能给我们的信息和细节都没有太多，就跟往常相比。
Berkshire will file a Form 13F. 13F shows the company's holdings. In a couple of weeks or a month, something like that. So we'll know a little bit more then.
伯克希尔马上就会发布一个叫13F 的表里面就记录了他们的这个 portfolio 所以就是到时候在几周或者几个月内之内，我们就可以看到了。可能会好一点。
Importantly, Berkshire is holding almost $200 billion in cash, and $200 billion is a big number. That's probably because he doesn't see a lot of attractively valued opportunities. Contrast that to 2022, 2 years ago, where Buffett was a net buyer of stocks. In a down market, he was a net buyer. Last year or this year, it sounds like he's been a net seller, so selling more stocks than he's bought.
对，他现在其实巴菲特现在手上有超级多的现金，但是他说了他不愿意花，就是说他觉得他想要把这个钱，除非他花的话，他就除非把这个钱是找到了一个比较便宜的比较 profitable 的这个股票，他才会花掉这个钱就跟他这个最近呢，他卖出的股票就比他买进来的股票多，就跟大概2年前完全不一样。
In a big sense, this year, Berkshire had a good year. The overall financials were good. The insurance business was particularly strong.
就是说到他们的财务状况，其实他们今年做的还是不错的，就是特别是保险，他们还是尤其的强劲。
The weakness there seems to be data analytics. And they got another question about that this year. They got some questions last year also about why they're so far behind the competition.
对，就是但是这个保险业务的还有一个问题，就是他们的数据分析还是比较薄弱的，包括这个RG他也在会上有承认说，他们其实这个技术是他们的短板，他们的瓶颈。不过他有讲说他们在努力跟上他的竞争对手，现在还是差得很远的。不过在2025年之前是一定能赶上的，这是他在会上说的。
And in the negative businesses, or the ones that pushed results down, were railroads and the energy business, the utilities.
然后另外一个的话就是另外两个就是表现得不太好的，就是要么就是一个铁路，然后就是一个能源。
And in particular, the utilities has an interesting situation because there were some fires in Oregon, and there was a lawsuit that basically is asking the Berkshire Energy unit called Pacific Corp to pay. And Pacific Corp is arguing that it's really more the fault global warming, not the company. And Buffett is clearly very worried about this, because the precedent, and this could affect the whole utility industry in the US. It is regulated by the states, not the federal government. It's mostly state, it's a little bit federal, but the point is, should utility companies have to pay the price of global warming or not? But Buffett is clearly worried about this.
然后最近还有一个比较负面的事情呢，就是俄勒冈最近就是起火了嘛，然后他们就是它这个叫做 Pacific Corp 的这个公司其实是伯克希尔旗下的，所以就是所以他们被起诉了。然后但是呢，巴菲特就是非常担心这个问题，他就非常坚称呢，就是这个问题不是他们造成的，其实是这个全球变暖造成的。然后其实这个案子的进展呢，就是也其实给整个行业未来的发展奠定下了一个基调，就是所以大家还是可以多关注一下这个东西。
So, we don't know what's going to happen, but in general, it was a good year for Berkshire. They've done great. They sold 13% of their Apple stock. Buffett said it was mostly for tax reasons. Some people doubt that. Some people believe that. I don't know. I mean, maybe you have an opinion more than I do about that. You seem to believe it, right?
I believe in that. 对，就是最近还有就是关于苹果的这个股票嘛，巴菲特以前不是说他特别就是这是他最喜欢的股票，结果他最近出售大概13%的股份，然后但他在会上是有给出解释，他这个减持是为了就是这个税的目的，但是就是有些人信，有些人不信，然后就是有些人会觉得说，你是不是在找借口呢？对
And the Buffett, it should be said, I mean, they bought Apple. Berkshire bought Apple in 2016. It wasn't Buffett's idea. It was Todd Combs and Ted Weschler's, the younger guys. And they're probably telling him to sell a little bit now, whether it's for tax reasons or not. I bet the decision is more from them. But Apple was almost 50% of Berkshire's public equity portfolio. It really had probably made more money than any other investment in history. Maybe not the biggest percent return, but made more money. It's been hugely, hugely successful for Buffett.
就是这个苹果这个股票，当初在2016年他们就是购买的时候呢，其实也不是巴菲特自己的决定啦，是 Ted 和 Todd 他们就是要求说要买这个苹果股票。其实，然后它的表现真的就是历史性的非常非常的好。
Speaking of this, I'm looking at these guys on the screen. Which one is Buffett and which one is Munger?
To be honest, this one is Buffett.
This is it says Warren Buffett. Okay, I see. Okay, yeah. So, okay, I asked an obvious question. A little research would have given me my answer. Anyway, look, Berkshire Hathaway has delivered 3.8 million% returns since its inception in the 1960s. Let me just find you that, and then
Can you repeat the number?
Okay, 3.8 million.
Okay.
3,800,000.
所以就是这个伯克希尔它的回报大概是380万。Is that a percentage or?
Yeah,
Oh,
3.8 million%.
380万，380%。
Yeah, right,
好
right.
夸张。
Most of that, or the biggest returns, were in the early years. The market conditions, the market competitiveness has changed very drastically
对啊
since Buffett started. Yep.
然后最近呢，其实这个市场的这个状况，还有各种各样的事情，它其实都一直在变化。
There's no way this company is going to do that well going forward. I think a realistic, optimistic case would be moderately beating the S&P 500.
所以说，在它已经有了这么好的成绩的情况下，其实未来它应该不太可能会取得什么更多的历史性的成绩的，但是可能最好的情况是，它可能会稍微的超过一点这个标普500的这个表现。
But even if Berkshire just matched the S&P 500, I would prefer investing in Berkshire than the S&P.
但是就算是这样的话 ，James 也是认为就是他会更倾向于买伯克希尔的股票，而不是去购买这个就是标普500的指数。
And by the way, I do own Berkshire shares. You have to be a shareholder to get into the meeting. You get one of these little tags.
就是声明一下，它是有它是有伯克希尔的股份。
And the reason I would choose to invest in Berkshire instead of S&P is that Buffett does something that is very beneficial to society. He carefully looks for good companies that are well run, good management, responsible reporting, responsible behaviors, and he avoids bad companies. An S&P index fund doesn't. It just buys companies based on their size, okay? That doesn't help the US economy or the world economy as much as someone like Buffett does, who really looks for good companies and avoids the bad companies. That choosing helps an economy.
其实巴菲特做的事情其实是非常好的，对美国的社会也是非常好的，因为他一直在寻找好的公司呢，它有健康的财务状况，它有好的经营理念，这一切的一切，它都是会给美国的社会造成一个比较良性的循环。但是标普500这个指数，它就纯粹是按照就是这个公司的大小的规模来决定的，所以这就是这两个之间的差别。
So we'll take a couple of questions now. Please stay tuned, though, for more of our Berkshire content. Shipin, Winjong, we took a bunch of pictures today, and we'll certainly be sharing it with you soon.
大家现在可以提问了，然后大家请继续关注我们的视频，我们就照了超多的照片，然后拍了很多视频，想要跟大家分享。
All right, so I have got a question. What advice would you like to share today that you believe everyone needs to hear? First of all, thank you for submitting this, whoever submitted it.
好，这个问题是你会就是你觉得大家都需要什么样的建议呢？就是
I would say, based on academic research, people make a lot of mistakes when they buy too many individual stocks. I would say start with something like a base, whether that's an S&P 500 index fund, whether that's Berkshire Hathaway, or maybe a smart beta fund, like BBAE has some smart beta funds. Any of those, a good base, start with that. Only buy an individual stock if you think it's going to do better than your base position.
就很多人犯的一个比较经常犯的错误，就是大家都会去买个股就我喜欢什么股票我就去买什么股票。但是其实在你刚开始的时候，还是建议去买像标普500然后各种指数这种包括这个 BBAE 也有一个 Smart Beta Fund， 所以就是像这样子的指数。但是如果说你非要去买一个个股的话，那你这时候你要非常确定它就是一定会变得更好。
And I gave a talk today at a dinner event, and one of the stats, the numbers that I mentioned was 94% of large cap fund managers in the U.S. cannot beat the S&P 500 over a 20-year period.
然后今天 James 也在一个酒会上就是发表了一通演讲，然后他有提到一个数字，就是94%，94%的意思呢，就是在20年间呢，其实94%的大盘基金经理都是没有跑赢大盘的，所以就是真的没有那么容易。
In many ways, investing is about, or successful investing is about taking advantage of other people's mental weaknesses, emotional weaknesses. And ironically, the best way to do that is by just not being very active.
所以建议呢，就是巴菲特之前说过一句话嘛，就是别人恐慌的时候我就往前冲，别人往前冲的时候我就恐慌嘛，大概就是这样子的。所以就是大部分人会犯的错误呢，就是太活跃了，操作太频繁了，对自己的股票账户。
Okay, so a couple more, move a little faster. What are your personal thoughts on Apple stock? I own Berkshire and I own Apple stock as well. Obviously, the situation in China with the smartphone sales is not looking as good. I still think Apple survives that. Okay, it will be injured but not killed. Certainly not. Apple does need. It's been several years since they've had a new product. The Vision Pro is not a game changer. The AirPods were the last really good product. I thought they would fail, by the way, because who wants those stupid things? But I'm not the average person. Okay, my son wears them all the time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would not bet against Apple. It won't grow as quickly as it did before, but a good company.
就提前声明一下 ，James 是有伯克希尔还有苹果的股票的，所以整体来说，其实他觉得苹果不会就这么倒了，它只会稍稍的受一点小伤而已。然后大概就是最近出来的 Vision Pro， 它应该也不是为一个会掀翻市场的，但是就是 James 也不是一个非常就是 regular 就是普通的人哈，他跟大家的想法可能不太一样。
What was your favorite part of the shareholder event so far? I think that was what I just mentioned, is when Buffett answered the question and said, Charlie, what do you, that symbolized everything about their relationship. And it's such a beautiful thing to have a partnership for so many years like that.
对，然后就是这个问题呢，就是这现在就是目前为止你最喜欢的这个部分是什么？那就是我们之前提到过的。巴菲特的那一幕就是下意识的喊Charlie Munger 的那一幕真的很感人。
You're kind of squishing Buffett's head, but he's a squishmallow. He can take it. Squish is okay. It's okay. So he's fine with that. Have you read Poor Charlie's Almanac? Yes, I have. I've only read actually probably 2 investment books in my life, believe it or not, and that's one of them.
他看过，他可能就是。How many books you read? Yeah, 他就可能看过2本这样书，这就是他最喜欢的书。
Has Charlie Munger inspired you in life or in investments? If so, would you be willing to share with us? Yeah, I don't know that I have a specific answer, but I respect. It sounds bad to say this, but in a way, I respect Munger more than I respect Buffett, even though Buffett is richer, because Munger is much more well-rounded. And Warren even mentioned that today. He said, Charlie. He wants to understand how everything works. I dropped my Charlie. Whereas Warren just wants to know that it works. So Charlie is, if you read the books and read his speeches, he's just amazingly broad thinker. He designed buildings, sometimes weird buildings, but he understood medicine, psychology, law. I mean, he's really, we say in English, a polymath, someone who can do so many things and do them well. So I would love to be even 10% of Charlie Munger.
这个问题就是问芒格有没有就是对你的这个投资有 给你一点灵感，然后如果有的话，你可不可以跟我们 share？然后 James 的意思是，他其实这么说不太好，但是他确实喜欢芒格多过于巴菲特。虽然说巴菲特是更富有吧，但是呢，就是怎么说，芒格更像是一个六边形战士，他除了这个投资方面呢，他还会去设计宿舍楼啊，他还写书，他还干各种各样的事情。然后今天巴菲特在会上的时候也说了，芒格更会想要知道这个事情它是怎么运作的，但是巴菲特想要知道的更多的是这个事情能不能做。
Munger really goes straight to the key essence, the core of an idea very quickly. That's the only way he can be so good at so many things. And that's really a wonderful skill.
对，然后芒格看各种问题基本上都是一针见血的，非常快，所以这就是他可以就是这么优秀的原因。
How do you assess if a company has competitive advantage when investing? Competitive advantage is, are you sustainably better than your competitors? A metric called ROIC, return on invested capital, is my favorite way to assess competitive advantage.
这个问题就是问你怎么去衡量一个公司的竞争力。然后 James 刚刚说了 ROIC 就是他最喜欢的一个数据，大家可以回去查查看。
And I have an article, at least an English article. I don't know if we have it in Zhongwen, but at least in the BBAE blog, I wrote about ROIC a couple of weeks ago. So if you're curious, you can probably use Google Translate to read that article.
Can you say that again?
I have a Wenchong
yeah.
about ROIC, but it's in English.
他有一篇James 有一篇文章在网上，然后是关于这个 ROIC 的。ROIC 就是 Return on Invested Capital， 所以就是基本上就是你投入的资本所产生的回报啊，类似是这样的。他有一篇文章是专门解释这个，大家可以去看一下，但是是以英语的，大家可以自己翻译一下。
The normal condition in an industry, if a new company comes in and demonstrates superior profits, the competition will aggressively try to get those profits too. And so then the superior profits start to decline. But if a company has a competitive advantage, that means the competition can't eat away all those superior profits. So ROIC measures that.
对，然后如果说你进入一个市场，然后最后它就会变成一个完全竞争市场，你其实没有任何的利润大家其实赚的钱都差不多。但是如果你的 ROIC， 你有这个 ROIC 的话，就证明你是有这个竞争力的，所以大家还是可以多去了解一下这个指数。
Okay, do you think Apple? Oh, sorry, we have been going nonstop with very little sleep. That's the reality of Berkshire Weekend. Do you think Apple faces technological risks similar to what Nokia, NOK is a ticker, encountered earlier? Because Nokia was like the early leader in mobile phones from Finland. Everybody thought it was so cool. And then it became a value investment because they thought it was going to come back. It didn't really come back. Okay. Nobody can say for sure. Okay. Tech is risky. Hardware is probably more stable than software, meaning like Facebook or MySpace, right? Like social media platforms are more vulnerable to becoming replaced than tech, but it could happen. It could happen. I put a low chance on that, but it could happen.
这个问题就是你觉得苹果会不会像诺基亚一样，就是最后失败？然后简单来讲呢 ，James 的回答是有可能，但是几率很小。但就是硬件上就可能就是的失败会比软件上难得多嘛。就比如说你像 MySpace 这种东西，你其实被替换是很容易的，但是硬件其实是比较难的，它需要时间去发展。
Yeah, if it's a very small company doing something very innovative, most likely Apple would just buy them.
对，如果说一个非常小的公司，它就在做非常创新的东西，最有可能的事情就是苹果直接把它收购了。
Okay, I was wondering if you think the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates this year. Also, I would like to ask you what impact you think this will have on the election. Thank you. Okay, maybe translate the question first, and then I'll talk.
这个问题就是你觉得美联储今年会不会降息？然后还有就是你觉得如果就是它会带来什么样的影响？会给选举带来什么样的影响
If you look back to about last November or last December, when I was in Taiwan, I was in Taipei around that time. The futures markets were predicting almost a 90% chance of, I think, at least a March rate cut. The March has already come and gone. We did not have a rate cut, but the market was sure that rates were going to be cut in the spring. And obviously they didn't happen. So it's very, very hard to predict a Fed rate cut. I would say maybe, previously the futures market was predicting 7 rate cuts. The Fed was predicting 4. We haven't had any so far. And the year is almost halfway through. So, maybe a 50% chance of 1. Inflation's just not quite going down. And that's kind of a good thing because it means Americans are so rich. They're spending, they have money. American households have the highest net worth ever. The job market is strong. All those things are good. Okay, but inflation is just still there.
其实这个东西是很难预测的，就是反正市场预测的7次啊，美联储预测的4次，到现在为止都快半年了吧，1次都没有，所以就是可能今年会降1次吧，大概这样。
So then, what impact will the election have? Okay, so a lot of people have these theories, and it might be more true with Trump. I don't think it's true so much with Biden, that in an election year, the incumbent president, the current president who's running again, wants the economy to do well, so the voters will like him. And because of that, he pressures the Federal Reserve to keep rates as low as possible. I don't see that happening so far this year.
Is it common things to happen?
Well, no, I mean, it's a common theory to talk about. Okay, but the Fed is independent from the government, technically.
所以就是一个比较就是一个比较普遍的理论呢，是如果说今年要选举了，然后总统就会去push 这个美联储让他把这个利率降低一点，然后让大家都过得好，这样他的支持率可以升高。But
I don't see that happening so far. I mean, we have not had any of the rate cuts, which has disappointed the market. Okay, so it's hurting people's wealth technically. If Biden hasn't been trying to talk up the economy, so I just don't see Biden doing that.
就是目前为止，就是什么都还没有发生嘛，然后他也没有看到拜登有做任何跟经济相关的就是这些的评论吧。
Another thing is personally, I know that interest rates have driven a lot of the U.S. stock market over the past 13 or 14 years. That's abnormal. I would not be making a lot of long-term investment decisions right now based on interest rate predictions. I wouldn't make it a major factor.
在过去的13到14年间吧，就是利率一直在很严重的影响市场，所以就是如果是James 的话，他就不会因为这个利率的走向去做任何的长期投资的决定。
Do you use AI tools in everyday life? No, I do not. I used to do my taxes by hand, okay? When I built investment models, I make them all myself in Excel. Every article I write is me, never AI. I just don't like ChatGPT. ChatGPT makes medium quality writing very quickly. It does not do high-end stuff. And maybe I'm imagining myself, but I try to do better stuff. So no, I don't use AI. Maybe one day I will, okay? Not yet.
最后一个问题这个问题是呢，你平时有没有用 AI 工具？就是他说 no， 他绝对不用就是他连税都是手写的，然后他之前这个建模啊，建那个金融的模型啊，他也都是一个字一个字在那个 Excel 上打的，然后他也觉得 ChatGPT 的写作呢，这水平也就那样吧，就是还得改
Yeah. So against AI, yeah. I maybe I am okay. Maybe I am, but one day it will do a lot of things. I am excited about the technology. It's just personally like my particular focus of my work and how I do things. It's just not like what I'm ready for yet. I'm a little bit distrusting too because like I come from the old school where we would print out when I was at a hedge fund. You would print out an SEC filing this thick and look, and you type it in. You look, you type it in, and you get a feeling for the numbers when you do that. Nowadays, the computer, like it's automatically scans, and sometimes it's still wrong. Okay. And sometimes you can make a mistake too. Okay. But like you miss the connection with the writing if the computer does it. You miss the connection with the numbers if the computer is always generating your analysis. And I like to have that feeling.
就是他可能就是出于个人原因吧，就是他就不想要就是太依赖这个 AI， 而且他也有 trust issue， 他对这个就是不信任其实，然后就是他会觉得如果说他老让 AI 帮他写作或者老让 AI 帮他处理数据的话，他就会失去跟这个写作啊、文字啊还有数据之间的联系。对。
All right, guys, it sounds like that's all the questions. We appreciate every single question, every single viewer. Thank you guys so much. We have slept literally just a couple of hours in the past couple of days. So I think we will be going into comas pretty soon. Coma 用中文这么说, like where you can't wake up for like many weeks, like a medical emergency. I'm joking. We're not going to go into a coma, okay? But almost. I'm not too far away. But look, we have energy to do this. We love having you guys as viewers. It means a lot to us. It's why we go. It's why we go here, right? We fly here. We do this for you guys. So thank you very much. If you have further questions, or if you think of one later tonight when we're fast asleep, just send it, okay? And we'll answer it either in a video or an article, something. We want to know your questions. We want to help you.
这就是所有的问题啦，而且非常感谢大家到现在在这边陪我们一起，然后这也是我们不远千里来到这个伯克希尔这个股东大会的原因我们非常我们明年再见没有股东大会明年再见。
Awesome, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And Xiaoping, thanks. Fist bump.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, guys, take care. 再见。
拜拜。